G'day folks, Steve from Vintage Restorations Australia here. In today's episode I'm going to go through my New Year's Restolutions. So look at all the projects that I've got hidden away on the farm, work out what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do, what I might do, what I can't do, and we'll take it from there. So tune in and I'll take you for a little tour to the dark corners of the farm. Just before we start today, I'd like to shout out to Mick from Mad Ford Engineering, who signed on as a workshop manager level patron. So thanks Mick, really appreciate that support. Also check out his channel over there on Mad Ford Engineering. He's got some great content there. Also a big thank you to Rowan Williams and my buddy Dengar Stew, who both signed on as restorer level patrons. Thanks guys, appreciate that support. And finally from Al Poole, who signed on as an apprentice restorer patron. Thanks, Al Paul. So thanks to those patrons for signing on. The channel doesn't happen without patrons, so thanks very much for that continued support. So this project has got to the point where we need to find a battery bank for it. The car chassis, rolling chassis, is pretty much all done. Everything's on there, brakes, running gear as far as the diffs and things go. Bulkhead's all done. We're started on the body panels. At the moment, we've got the transfer case and gearbox all sort of out and pulled to bits. We're kind of in the position where we need to make a decision about batteries and the spend on batteries, more importantly. To convert this to an electric vehicle is probably, we're looking at around the $20,000 worth of batteries for the lithium battery bank. At this point, we can't afford that. This is a kind of community project, so I've funded this out of my business for the last, since we started. So now we're at the point where we need to partnership with someone, a business or an individual, to get these batteries purchased. We're basically looking for sponsorship or in-kind support, in whole or in part, I guess, so we can afford to get this project finished. We're happy to talk to anyone that might be interested in that. So drop us a note or a line, and we can chat about that. So this is the 107 Series 1 station wagon. This will probably be the next project that we take on. There's a lot of work to be done on this one. It's in pretty ordinary condition, as you can see. Anyway, it's in line to be done next. So we've got pretty much most of the essential parts of this, as far as we've got the wagon back. The chassis is pretty, ordinary to say the least. There's a lot of rebuilding work to be done on that. Most of the issues are in the front end here, but having done a bit of research, it's looking like I'm going to have to rebuild this chassis as best I can, because it's very different to the normal 107 chassis. We did find a donor one, that little 107 there, but they're apparently a different chassis altogether. The shape is a little bit different, where it comes up here, it stays flat rather than going up, to allow for the floor section that's down in there. Anyway, so we're looking at rebuilding that chassis, which makes a pretty major job of this. It's a pretty major job anyway. As far as the firewall goes, we've got a firewall for it, we've got an engine for it, we've got lots of the parts. I've also just scored a whole heap of just consumable parts, things like lights and a couple of new skins. I've got a whole heap of doors, front doors off a 107 or 86 or whatever. They all fit, they're interchangeable, these front doors. I've got some replacement front panels, but I think I can repair those. The grill and things I've got. So I do actually have most of the parts I need to do it. Obviously there's always going to be parts that we need, and we've got to resolve some issues around the diffs and the springs and things like that. Anyway, that'll be into the workshop and start stripping it down probably in the next few weeks, I'd suggest. It's a pretty big project. I expect that'll take me a few years. So sit back, get comfortable. It's going to be quite a ride. So being eaten by the Kikuyu here is the 107 that I swapped with Warwick. The idea of this was going to be a parts donor car for the station wagon. But I've been told that the chassis on this is completely different to the chassis on the station wagon, so that's why we've decided to go the way of repairing the chassis on the station wagon rather than utilising this as a parts donor car. I guess the other thing is this is quite a nice original car. The original motor's still in it. Obviously it's pretty damaged with this guard and the tray's dead and all of that sort of thing. But apart from those minor things, I do actually have all the parts to put this back together as a complete car. So I have some tubs over there in the paddock that I've picked up. So we've got a tub for it. I've got replacement guards and doors and things, all the grills and badges and that sort of stuff. So I do actually have a complete car. Do I want to restore it? Probably not. I've got to the point where I've got too many projects, and this would be a really good restoration project. The motor was running, so it should be able to get it going again. So it'll be a good little original car project for someone, if not me. But at this point, I don't see myself getting it done. I'm running out of years, and the wagon's probably going to take me, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And lots of other projects as well as, my caravan projects. I've got another food van over there that's nearly finished, but not quite. So we'll see what happens with this one. So most of you who follow the channel will be familiar with George here. It's a 958 Series 1, 109 Ute. George is my sort of daily driver, or weekly driver, I guess. I drive him a couple of times a week. George is in need of a little bit more work on the cooling system. I've put a new radiator and things in, but it needs a new water pump, which I'm actually doing today. And I also have a heater to install. When you drive these old vehicles, they need constant work. So no doubt this year I'll be doing more adventures in this car, and which means more work on this car, essentially. So that'll be George for the year. We've got a few good adventures planned. I'm up to up the coast, and I'm going to drop in and see my mate Rob up there in the next couple of weeks. We're also heading off to the Snowy Mountains in George for a bit of a trout fishing adventure up there in April, but we've got lots of other little trips planned. Nothing too far away because he's ridiculously slow, but anyway, it's we often end up on the road less travelled. So that'll be George for the year. Actually, in next week's episode, this is what we'll be fitting into George. You'll get to see that go in. It's a bit posh, actually. I think it's out of a Jaguar or another more upmarket British car, but it's actually a really nice condition Smith's heater. So over here, hidden in the corner of the block, is 3 80-inches. I'm not convinced that I actually want to do an 80-inch, given the cost of them. They're a little bit on the prohibitive side, but these are 3 complete cars. These 2 are Bitzers, 1951s, and that one there is a 53, which is complete and all original. This is a 1951 80-inch. Let's go a bit wider there so you can see it. It's essentially a very good chassis and bulkhead. All the parts are there as far as panels and things. It's a Bitzer, but it's quite a nice little Bitzer and a relatively doable project because it's kind of all there. It's a matter of cleaning everything, restoring it, putting it back together. Simple. Over there we've got another identical 1951 80. Again, that's a Bitzer. It's all the parts for a car. It's kind of a complete car, but in bits and pieces from various vehicles. So I'm kind of interested in doing these, but I'm also aware that I'm a little bit time poor with all the projects that I've got on. So they may go on the market. Who knows? We'll see. In this little corner here, we've got Davo's little 1953 80-inch. It's a cracker little car. It's all complete, original motor, all that sort of thing. So that's been sitting here for a few years. Davo keeps saying he's going to do it, but he's Davo. Well, there you go, folks. You can see I've got a fair bit of work ahead of me. So the priorities are keeping George on the road, trying to get sponsorship and push ahead with that electric Land Rover project, and trying to get the 107 station wagon into the workshop and commence this year. So that's kind of my New Year's resolution. It's pretty big. It's a big ask of anyone. I do work a full-time job as a builder slash timber restorer and things, so that's my priority. I've got to pay the bills. YouTube doesn't really pay the bills. So as always, thank you to the patrons who make the YouTube channel possible. We appreciate that continued financial support. I guess that wraps it up for the week. So until next week, look after yourselves and try to be kind to each other, folks.